Alright, lesson 4, pressurized time fuel system. Leading event 1, system colon to the operation of the pressurized time and inject the system figure 57 of the metering system that has been based on the principle of volume of liquid flow for the proportional fluid of the pressure of the time allowed the flow of the side of the passage of the liquid flow throughout the operation of the system and also flows fuel tank of the ventilated filter cap of the storage of the fuel supply with the fuel is supplied with the tank of the pressurized time, the gear with the pump through the delivery line with the line inlet filter with its placed in the series of the inline with the trap of the foreign matter with the moisture return line with the pressurized time gear with the pump with the fuel tank with the properly to bleed off the excessive fuel for the operating pressure that can be regulated with the pressure time gear. The pump deliver the control amount with the fuel with the pressurized time deliver the injectors. 50, figure 57, pressurized time injector system, pressurized time injector 6, place with the injector, return tank of the fuel pressure pump, return tank of from the tank of the fuel filter, the fuel shutdown valve, the prime pull pressure time gear with the fuel pump. Deliver the fuel with the pressurized time to take delivery, pressurized time delivery, injected through the common rail, delivery through the common rail tab of the return line, instead of the pressurized time pressurized time delivery, inject the fuel tank with the excess the fuel may be delivered back with the fuel tank priming pressurized time and gear with the injection pump with the figure 58 pressurized time and the gear with pump with the driven the engine at one tone with the 1-to-1 speed ratio of the pump contained with the four main pump with the four components of the respective operations are as follows: the gear type of the pump with the draw with the fuel with the flow of the supply of the tank with the force through the pump filter screen with the governor the driving about the pump with the main shaft with the tank with the deliver through the other with the fuel system of all station damp with the gear pump the pump contained the shield diaphragm absorb the pulsation, smooth the fuel flow through the fuel system of the gear pump with the fuel flow through the filter screen, the governor screen, priming pressurized time and gear pumps equipped with the bleed line with attached for the engine injector return with the inline line with the tank of the pressure except for the fuel tank with the pump temperature within the fuel pump with the surplus fuel with the coolant the bleed in line with the fuel tank primarily with the pump with the fuel throttle is set at pressurized time gear injection pump. The tachometer shaft of the filter screen with the manual cans with the shutdown valve of the gear pump with the field pulsating damp of the idle adjusting screw with the maximum speed spring with the idle spring. Throttle shaft of the governor plunger of the governor wave of the governor assist the plunger main shaft of the tachometer shaft. Idle speed of the pump of the gear pump the output if the due the engine over operating speed of the curve during the downhill operation special check valve the other fitting of the gear pump to accomplish the bleeding action. The governor control of the flow of the fuel for the gear pump as well with the maximum idle speed with the mechanical level of the actuator, the system spring of the wave with the two functions first governor maintain the position, fuel with the idling throttle with the control idle position, second the restrict of the fuel with the injector above the maximum rate of revolution per minute, the idle spring with the governor spring back with the spring back position for the governor plunge for the idle fuel port with the open and enough to permit the passage of the fuel maintain engine idle speed during the operation between the maximum speed of the fuel flow through the governor of the injector according to the engine requirement that has control with the throttle limited to the side of the idle speed spring plunge with the counter bore with the pressurized time gear fuel pump of the engine reach for the governor speed with the governor wave for the governor plunge for the fuel flow with the injector restricted at the same time and another passage open the dump with the fuel back with the main pump with the body with the main engine speed with the control with the limited if the governor regardless of the throttle operation fuel leaving the pump through the shutdown and the valve the inlet supply lines into the injectors through the throttle provided for the main for the operator, the manually control the engine above the idle with the required of the varying operating condition with the speed with the low with the pressure timing pressurized time and gear pump flows through the governor to the throttle of the shaft. The idle flows through the idle port of the governor barrel with the path of the throttle shaft that operates above the idle speed with the full flow of the main governor barrel port with the throttle hole in the shaft. Fuel shutdown valve located in the top of the fuel pump with the shoved off of the fuel injector with the master switch with the on the solenoid opens the valve with the switch off the string over the valve returns to the off position in position gave the electrical failure with the rotation of the manual knob clockwise with the permit the fuel to flow through the valve. The knob is located in the front of the valve. The pressurized timing delay injector for the pressurized timing delay injectors are provided for each of the engine cylinders. Spray the fuel with the combustion chamber. The pressurized timing delay injectors are at a unit of the type of the operated with the engine bay for the camshaft of the fuel flow with the connection at the top of the fuel pump that shuts down the valve with the supply of the line into the lower drill pass for the cylinder head at the front of the engine. Second, drilling the head of the line with the upper engine for the radio group with the drain away excessive fuel with the fuel drain with the flywheel end of the engine. The railways return with the unused fuel with the fuel tank. There are four phases of the injector operation. The metering of the phase begin with the plunger thrust, begin with the move downward for the engine is on the beginning with the compressor on stroke with the fuel trapped down into the cup, the trick of the ball, stop with the fuel with the flowing back with the fuel, begin with the B press for the except the fuel flows around the lower angular ring up with the barrel with the trap there. Pre-inject for the figure 59, the plunger is almost way down with the engine, almost down with the end of the compression stroke with the end, the fuel is beginning with the pressurized by the plunger. 3, the injection figure 59 of the plunger is almost all the way down with the fuel. It's injected with the aid of the other forces of the engine at the very end of the compression stroke. Figure 59 of the plunger is all the way down with the ejection finish with the fuel flowing into the injector around with the lower annular groove of the upper drill passageway of the barrel around the upper annular groove out of the fuel drain with the cylinder into the power stroke during the exhaust stroke. And the plunger moves up and then waits for the beginning of the cylinder cycle all over again. Are your pressurized timing delivery injector operations of the fuel in black at the spring of the plunger for the fuel inlet with the check valve of the barrel with the lower annular ring of the cup of the camshaft of the fuel drain, fuel and the compression intake of the lower and power and exhaust, the metering, pre-injection and power exhaust, compression and intake of the exhaust and power intake of the injection power control exhaust, fuel excessive fuel with power combustion intake and exhaust. Learning event 2, troubleshoot the pressurized fuel system. The information covered in this learning event is applicable to any time of the equipment that you with the pressurized time fuel system component location may vary depending on the equipment that you with the appropriate technical manual for the extract the component location for the bicurious area models 224B4 crawler crane shuffle with you throughout the remainder of the lesson applicable to technical manual 53810289112. The will begin with learning of the location identifying the component for the fuel system. First item is located the inspection of the fuel tank, fuel cup, the drain with the fuel tank located at the back of the cap directly below the engine. Inspect with the tank of the for loosening the mounting nuts, mounting both fuel tank line with the connection tied to the necessary check with the tank with the cap, the train with the cleaning for the be sure with the cap of the van with the opening with the operative the service of the fuel tank with the fuel cap of the train with the required fuel supply line with the fuel tank of the primary fuel filter with the check of the fuel leaks and crush with the damaged plate with the fuel line with leaking the damaged lines must be replaced. Next location of the primary and secondary fuel filter is located on the left of the side of the engine and the fuel flow within the primary filter first. With the primary and secondary filters have a common filter of the drain valve with each of the filter body of the drain air from the water of the reserve which has been filtered with the fuel. After the fuel leaves the secondary filter, they continue through the flexible line with the fuel transfer pump, which is mounted on the left side of the engine, just forward of the filter's transfer pump that has been filtered with the stream, which should be the check of the sign that leakage will be the required normal service. From the transfer pump, the pressurized fuel flow with the fuel inlet manifold, which is mounted on the left side of the engine manifold, distributes the fuel entities for the injector. Check of the manifold line for each of the damaged and loose fittings. From the inlet manifold, the fuel through the inlet connected to the injector with the inlet tube of the connectors contain the very small screen with the axis of the final filter through the fuel entering the injector of the inlet with the connector of the air and the injector is located on the left side of the engine. Each of the injector inlet connected with the fading of the should be checked with the security leakage of fuel pump will always supply more fuel with the injector metering valve than will be used for the engine operated the drain. The return manifold will accept the fuel tank through the return line. Drain manifold is similar with the appearance of the inlet manifold. The drain manifold should be checked with the security of the mounting leakage. Now that you are able to locate and save the function of each of the component fuel system, you are ready to move within the troubleshooting procedure. We will start with the move of the simple problems, continue with the more complex area of the wood encounter to keep the equipment in good operation. You are assigned to the troubleshoot a piece of the equipment that has lost the engine power during the operation, and the fuel line between the tank and the pump that delivers the leak of the air will be drawn into the system that's caused the engine to run through and lose power. You also know if the engine misfire with the surge of the game of losing speed with these also system was air leak in the fuel line with the corrective action with the problem. Check with all the low fuel lines for any of the loose connection with the cracks. Any lines with closed loose lines should be tightened with the correct line with the fitting and replaced with the loose engine power can be covered with the fuel contamination. Good practice to drain small amount of the fuel from the tank filters daily to remove any water dirt particle of the contaminate the fuel system. Encourage your operator to drain these items daily. The dirty filter will also restrict the fuel flow of the fuel causing loss of power. If you think the fuel filters are clogged, this problem can be checked by helping the vacuum gauge. The gauge should be connected between the outlet port of the filters and that port of the fuel pump with the T with the fitting of the further to AM for the fuel flow for the problem with the particular engine in the end you are working on. Remember the filter screen with the inlet connection screen with the must be cleaned with the filter elements. Replace with the next problem in the engine with the smoke leak successfully without idling it under the load. With excessive black smoke means that there is not enough air to burn all the fuel reaching into the cylinder of the component. Check with the see the air cleaner of the rate with the operating with the opening of the air cleaner will clean to replace it. Learning 3, component with adjustment repair with the replacement. During the learning event, you will show how to adjust and repair the place of the component to pressurized time fuel system. All working described will be in accordance with the maintenance allocation chart shown in Figure 60. Figure 60 maintenance allocation chart. Remove the fuel pump surface refer to Figure 61 with the fuel filter screen cover on top of the main housing filter cap at the spring of the filter screen with the assembly of the main housing. We discover the filter fiber filter screen with the clean the metal filter screen with the approved solvent and blow dry with the compressed air. Fuel pump filter screen of service with the unscrewed filter cap of the filter cap screw with the filter spring of the filter screen with the O-ring of the O-ring retainer in the filter screen. Fuel filter filling is replacement refer to Figure 62. Remove the fuel inlet manifold, loosening the tube of each of the injector. Remove the cap screw with the holding the tube support with the engine. Remove the fuel drain with the manifold, loosening the tub tube with each of the injector. Remove the cap screw with the clipping of the holding the manifold to the engine. Figure 62 fuel line fitting the bypass the tube with the elbow with the cap screw, lock washer with the washer tube support with the fuel inlet manifold, the tube, the clip of the fuel drain manifold, the supply manifold tube, the washer, the clip of the cap screw. Shutdown valve, replace and disconnect the shutdown valve with the fuel pump, removing the cap screw with the two lock wash with the two flat wash with the discard the perform packing install the shutdown valve the new perform the packing of the reassembly in reverse order. Air cleaner replacement, remove the screw with each of the mounting ring, remove the screw with the outlet with the cap of the clamp, remove the air cleaner assembly with the fuel filter, replacement in front of Figure 63, disassemble the replace with the clean of the fuel filter, discard the filter carriage with assembly with the washer strain element, filter body with the proof with cleaning, install with the blow dry with the cross air. Fuel filter replacement, the filter body with assembly, it's for primary assembly replacement of the replace with the primary unit with the cold weather, starting A with the quick start, loosening the holding of the clamp, remove the canister with the scrub properly, install the unit with the reverse order of throttle control, replacement in front of the exploded view with the throttle control, assembly Figure 64 to replace with the throttle control. 1. The ball joint, 2. The nut hexagon, 3. The lock washer, 4. The nut hexagon, 5. The lock washer, 6. The bolt hexagon, the washer plane, the 8. The lock 9 spring with the disc, 11 arm, 12. The knob, 13 screwdriver with the screw and drive, the 14 instruction plate with the 15 knocks. Hexagon 16, lock washer 17, instruction plate 18, instruction plate 19, instruction plate. Fuel tank replacement referred to the exploded view with the fuel tank of the Figure 65 with the reverb replace the fuel tank. Your fuel tank replacement the cap of the filter pipe with the trainer, assembly breather with the bolt and tube with the suction with the screw with the washer and space with the washer nut and bolt with the plug with the tank with the nut and the washer, screw with the plate with the instruction screw with the pipe with the brace and the gasket. Lesson 5, fuel supply units.